You don't move your specific person by chasing, waiting, or trying to fix them. That shift happens when your inner story stabilizes. And then when their behavior starts changing, it's often before you can even notice it. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about your specific person and specifically about what's really going on with your SP when you're, going through the conforming process and they're shifting, but without needing to control what's going on and without maybe having direct contact with them or direct communication. So yes, if you're manifesting a new SP, all of this is relevant as well, and really what's going on and what leads into that significant shift. So stay tuned to hear all of my advice and all the different points that describe and give you guys advice on what exactly to do as you're conforming, as you're going through the manifestation process, what to look out for. So yeah, stay tuned to hear all of that, and do thumbs up or subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, if you enjoy this content and you want to see more. It's just an easy and free way to let YouTube know that you want to keep seeing this video. So yeah, well, this channel. So yeah, on screen as well, before we get into everything, I'm going to pop all my information as usual for anyone who's interested or curious. Just a little update again on all the coaching offers that I have, how to get extra bonus content and material. So yeah, take a look in the description box at what's available, and now let's jump into it. Your SP is going to mirror back to you the version of you that you've built up internally. So what's going on with your inner story, your inner conversations, and your identity? Who do you see yourself as? Are you still wallowing in, being single or having relationship issues, whether you know SP or not, whether you know the person that you'll end up having this relationship with or not, the starting circumstances are irrelevant. But, whatever the starting point with this person may be, a specific person, or also just open to a relationship, you have a negative inner story, the old version that you're still holding on to, the concerns, the doubt, the worry, they are going to be mirroring back to you where your focus goes. So the identity and story that you've been telling yourself and holding on to, because yes, you consciously do have a choice and control over what you assume and what you believe, they are going to mirror back to you what's going on there. So essentially the emotional tone that they hold, that they respond to, that they have to then be that literal mirror reflection back to you regarding, is about, the story that you've held on to. So about the relationship, about dating, about your personal relationship status, that all does play somewhat of a role in what's going to happen with your SP, how they're behaving currently as well. That it will explain a lot. And in order to get that stable, consistent shift and development in their behavior, the way they treat you, the way they just come across, whether you know them or not, becomes more predictable as your assumptions become predictable. So you have to make sure that those assumptions and the story that you're feeding and building into, because it may not be a full belief, but it's an assumption of what you assume would happen or assume what you would see from your SP, that needs to stop fluctuating in order for your SP's behavior to stop fluctuating. So to get that consistent result and really, see the communication and the shifts in who they are, their behavior in terms of, maybe what has held back the relationship so far, them pursuing you, all of that, or being open to being pursued by you, if it's a male and female, like the dynamics can shift. But whatever the scenario is that would naturally come about for your manifestation to unfold, your assumptions need to stabilize. So remember that you don't have to do this 24/7. It's not a difficult, really near impossible task. It's all about just applying self-awareness and being aware of your thoughts. So you don't need constant affirming and constant trying to resolve things and push the manifestation forward. It's just about being consistent with that new story of you being in that relationship. As I always say, the identity of the person and version of you, not a different person, but literally you in that future scenario right now. So through your thoughts, with your mindset, focusing on and imagining as if you're already there. You're already the version who's chosen, valued, committed to by this amazing person. So that's the version that you want to hold on to. And for your SP to stop playing that old role, the old version of being hot and cold, or disappointing you, or not communicating. There's so many different things that I've heard from my personal clients and from you guys, and just seen in general as a pattern. So there's a lot of different circumstances, but usually it's, a lack of commitment and effort into the relationship, right? They're not taking the initiative and pursuing it. When you let go of that, you cut the cord from that old version. They stop playing that role, but they can't let go of that version of the relationship in their reality, in their assumptions, in what they want and the way they view everything, until you can also let go of that. So you really need to work and focus on stabilizing your own inner story, not worrying what do they say, what do they do, what's going on with their social media, because nowadays that can play such a big role in any assumptions, negative or positive, that you need to have a stable inner story. It's all about the internal, not the external. The circumstances will shift day to day, hour to hour, things can shift. So, nothing is permanent or unchanging. Change is always happening around us, especially in manifestation with circumstances. So you need to be able to stabilize your inner story in order for them to start reflecting the version that you want. You'll find that you're no longer assigning meaning and significance to circumstances, mixed signals, just the things going on in your circumstances, in your 3D reality. Any silence or, lack that you may be seeing, the delay with your specific person, as I said, the hot and cold, that can quite naturally come up, especially at the beginning when you're still kind of faltering and wavering a little bit. All of that is just going to seem more just insignificant, essentially. The significance will lower. You won't be as triggered by it. It won't be a trigger point. You will feel probably a lot more calm. It won't be something that you jump to, and you certainly won't create assumptions based on those things. So then it's like this domino effect of positive movement where your emotional responses and reactivity and emotional state balances, regulates. You feel a lot calmer. You've let go of that trauma, PTSD, and just heaviness attached to anything your SP is saying or doing, or not receiving the validation that you want, need, deserve. Your emotional reactivity lowers and balances out, which also means that the pressure that was previously there on your relationship, on the manifestation and the timeline gets removed. The resistance is lessened. That, time pressure and time crunch and just overall reactivity to anything that you're seeing, it's going to balance out because your emotional state is not based on and controlled by, what your SP is doing. You're living your life. You're in control of your mindset. You know why your manifestation is working. You know what's going on overall. So all of it has this positive domino effect where you're kind of removing the delays naturally by thinking positively. You don't even need to take the physical action, which there is actually no physical action you can do to guarantee circumstances change, but it's internally. You're putting in the focus, putting in the effort and consistency every day, understanding manifestation, just all of that combined. And therefore your SP is responding to that. You're removing the resistance. You're making sure it's a much more smooth, enjoyable journey for yourself. So again, with what may have come up in the past, the old story, it doesn't hold true anymore. You stop trying to figure out or analyze what's going on with them, what do they mean, where are they at, let me think logically, realistically. Well, they're probably talking to a third party, they're probably, moving on, they're probably remembering all those horrible things. You don't think that way, and you certainly don't try and make an objective reality out of those assumptions, out of the old story, out of past negative circumstances and issues. As I said just now, it no longer rings true. It doesn't hold true anymore. You stop trying to figure your SP out, figure out what's going on and applying meaning to the circumstances. And you're just trusting what's going on. You're trusting what's happening in the manifestation because I'm putting in the effort, I'm being consistent. Here's the internal shifts that I'm noticing and feeling and experiencing. And you yourself will feel calmer. So it may take a couple of days again to stabilize, to lower, to get to that point, to start to feel more calm and relieve that pressure. And also that energy and the assumption and energy you hold towards the relationship, whatever level it's at, whether you've had a past, whether it's an existing connection, whether it's someone brand new, everything tied to that relationship feels calmer, more in control. Like you have taken back that control. You feel like, it's not all spiraling out of control. It's out of your hands. It's impossible. It's far off. All of that doesn't kind of seem like the, objective facts anymore. And that sense of urgency, the time crunch, that way of thinking where you're in a state of needing validation and this state of urgency, and you're panicking and you're just not enjoying your life or being present. And you've kind of held your SP in the relationship on the pedestal, all of that starts to fade away. You may even notice, because you're no longer trying to control the 3D or analyze it, or it's not constantly at the forefront and a state of reactivity for you, that you're not interfering in that, and therefore movement feels and appears to be way more consistent, sudden, significant. Things start to show up that maybe you wouldn't have even noticed before, or that maybe weren't really happening before. You remove those temporary blocks. So what you need to remember is that your SP, again, is a mirror reflection of you, kind of coming full circle. I know I said that at the beginning of the video, but they respond to who you are being, who you hold yourself internally. So it's not about wearing the cutest outfit, posting, the cutest Instagram picture that you hope they'll see, or they watch your story, or saying certain things. It's about who you're being internally. So your identity, your self-concept. I'm going to touch on self-concept a little bit in a moment. But yeah, so who are you? Are you the person who's in the relationship, who's valued, committed to, you're stable, you're not wavering and spiraling in this really emotionally unregulated state where you're reactive and you're anxious? That's no longer the version of you. You want to work towards being the version that's confident, secure, chosen, valued. You know your own value as well. That's the version that they're really going to respond to. And psychologically, it doesn't matter how much effort you put in. What's most important, what's most powerful, especially to the subconscious mind, is certainty, consistency, belief, assumptions. That's what really is going to create and shift the way you think day to day, your literal conscious thoughts, your thought patterns throughout the day, what is then reflected in your 3D reality. So it's not about effort or desire, or really, thinking, oh, if I really just, say one affirmation or one visual, or if I send this message to SP, then everything will shift. You have to consistently build it up until it basically becomes your identity, your assumption, you're confident in it, and being consistent with that, leading it into certainty. So not only will your SP also respond to your self-concept, but the way your subconscious will immediately jump to a conclusion, an assumption, is shifted and controlled by your self-concept as well. If you hold the relationship on a pedestal, what kind of thoughts do you think you might have? Versus if you hold yourself on a pedestal, knowing your worth, your value, what you bring to the relationship, that you deserve to be committed to and have an amazing relationship in person. What kind of reactions and thoughts do you think you'll have at that point? So it's very much a difference between being reactive, spiraling and anxious, as I said, versus being confident, wobbling a little bit, but not, falling off track. And when you stabilize that and get to a point of not needing to see validation, movement, not waiting around, and, everything being based on when SP will reflect certain behaviors or give you something, your happiness, your confidence isn't based on that. Movement, consistency, commitment, progressing in the manifestation, the bridge of events, all of this starts to come together a lot more powerfully. So remember that it's not about your SP needing to be convinced, it's about your own consistency. So try and really focus and build up the version of you that is chosen, that thinks as if they are already chosen, that thinks as if they already have this amazing relationship, because obviously that's the version that they will respond to. This is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed all of that and found some value from that. Do thumbs up, subscribe, turn on that notification bell if you want to stay up to date and see more of this kind of content. I'd very much appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Bye.